Welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. South Africa have ended their ICC finals curse by defeating Australia by 5 wickets to win the 2025 World Test Championship final. My name is Josh Schonafinger. Jack Paynter has been at Lord's all 4 days. And Jack, why don't we start with the moment of day 4, even though we only had one session? What was the moment of the day?
Well, Josh, I think most people will think we'll go to the winning runs where South Africa were able to get that elusive ICC major trophy. But I think the moment of the day for me was when Aiden Markram got out. Everyone was cheering for him to get the winning runs, to be there at the end. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. He got out, chipped the ball to Travis Head at mid-wicket in the dying stages. But the moment was, as he walked off, all the Aussie players went to him, patted him on the back. He was obviously very disappointed to be getting out so close to victory. But I thought that was kind of a special moment to sort of sum up an innings that would go down as probably one of the greatest innings ever played by a South African in cricket. I think just the impact that it'll have on cricket and being able to get that elusive ICC silverware.
That's a good one. I like that, Jack. And you often see that in soccer or football. If a player scores a hat trick, they might get subbed off in the 88th minute just so they can have the whole crowd cheer just for them. And that was very similar to this. It was a very slow walk-off by Markram too, wasn't it? He was obviously exhausted. 207 balls, 136. And I had to look through the stats. Only 7 plays and misses. No chances given until that catch to head at square leg. One of the great knocks. And probably Markram's finest, you'd have to say, Jack.
You'd have to say so. He's scored a few hundreds before, a couple in fourth innings as well. But this one is the first of those that are coming to winning run chase. Like you said, he didn't look like getting out from the moment he got in, didn't give Australia a sniff. And it was a real grind too. Like towards the end of day 3, they really slowed up in the last hour. Like he had to go through a lot of mental energy to sort of get South Africa safely to stumps into position of strength, and then come back the next day and the pitch was still slow. Didn't look like he was getting out, but scoring was hard. So batted for a long time, 207 balls, as you said. And even this morning, it took them right up until, they had to push lunch back by 15 minutes because they were so close to victory. So it still took them an entire session to get those final 69 runs.
Yeah, Australia bowled pretty well this morning. Pat Cummins got Temba Bavuma in the 3rd over of the day. And, you thought maybe there's a tiny, tiny chance. Stark got Tristan Stubbs a few overs later with another good delivery. But they just didn't have enough runs on the board. And is that what this loss comes down to for Australia? Maybe just their batting let them down a bit?
I think so. Like it's a game of two halves, really. Like bowlers dominated for 2 days, which is when Australia did most of their batting. And then, the bat took over. And, we saw on day 3 on the morning, Mitchell Starc and Josh Hazlewood were able to, bat pretty much for an entire session, really untroubled. And then that just paved the way for South Africa to get going. So, yes, we can say that if Australia had got through to day 3, it might have been a different story. But, South Africa bowled really well on that final session of day 2 to just really get themselves back into the game and allow their batters to do what they did the following day.
Yeah, David Bedingham said after the match, I think to Kevin Peterson on the ground, he said that, South Africa probably got the better of the luck with the conditions. It was sunny when they were batting for the most part, and he said, that's cricket, so you have to take that, and that's the case. It's Australia's first loss in an ICC final since 2010. They've won in 2015, 2021, and 2 titles in 2023 since then. So a good record, but it comes to an end. And someone else who's had a good record in recent years is Temba Bavuma. He's had a lot of critics. A lot of people have said he shouldn't be in that South African team, but he's averaged high 40s for the last 5 years in Test cricket, and he scored a great 66 today or over the last couple of days, and a deserving sort of acknowledgement of his performance to this team over the last couple of years, Jack.
Yeah, well, as you say, hasn't scored a lot of hundreds, Bavuma. He's only got 4 in Test cricket, but I think the impact of that 66 that he got, obviously mostly yesterday, and then added 1 to his overnight score today. Just the impact of that and the partnership that he was able to build with Markram will go down, in South African history. And then they spoke a lot about his leadership as well after the match, and just how he's been able to galvanise the group and really, put all of the painful history that we've had at ICC events to the past, and sort of just focus on the here and now. So yeah, it was fitting sort of to see that him play such a key role in that victory, and he's very emotional when he spoke to the media after the game.
He's actually unbeaten in his 8 tests as captain now. A lot of people have said South Africa haven't played, high enough quality teams in this cycle, but he's had wins over India, 2 over the West Indies, 2 over Sri Lanka, and 2 over Pakistan, plus now this one over Australia. So, yeah, they're probably not the top teams, but he is building a good record, and you can't argue with unbeaten, Jack.
That's right. And Pat Cummins was asked about this after, and he said, South Africa got there fair and square, and they proved that they should be there by being able to beat Australia, like such a high-quality Australian team. They are miles ahead in the test rankings compared to all the other nations, compared to England, who are second. But they were beaten fair and square. South Africa were almost, as we were chatting on the end of day 2, almost dead and buried in this game. They were going to have to score the biggest total in the game, and they came out and they did it, and so deserved champions.
Now, there were great scenes after the game. I loved the South African coach, Shukri Conrad. He wouldn't take off his sunnies because he was crying underneath. But then also with the presentation of the mace. 2 years ago, we saw Pat Cummins sort of go down on one knee and lift this. It's quite an awkward object, quite an awkward shape for a trophy, isn't it? He sort of lifted it above his shoulder, but then Temba Bavuma, he decided to go two hands over the head and lifted it very proudly. Which sort of method did you prefer, Jack, and which one would you go with if that was you up there?
Well, I think Temba's had 2 WCT finals to have a look at the best way to go about it, and I think he's borrowed a bit of a combination from Pat Cummins 2 years ago and went straight above the head, but that's the way to do it, I reckon. Get it straight up above the head. And you mentioned the celebrations. We saw there's some photos floating around of Aiden Markram sculling a beer with the fans after the game, and we asked him about that in the press conference actually, and it was one of his old schoolmates. So he was trying to get him to come over.
That's nice.
Aiden said, "Oh, I've got a bit of stuff going on right now," and then he said, "Here, I've got a beer," and Aiden was straight over and into the celebration. So nice little moment there for the player of the match.
Now, we don't need to really talk about any knee jerks in particular, Jack, because we're going to touch base with you as soon as you land in the West Indies. But that first test against the Windies is only 11 days away. What changes, if any, do you see this Australian squad making?
Well, Pat Cummins spoke a little. He was asked about it, obviously, given the relevance to the top order. We had a new number 3 in Cameron Green and a new opener in Marnus Labuschagne, and he sort of talked about the World Test Championship cycle being a bit of a reset moment. They finished one, they move on to the next one, a bit like you have with a ODI World Cup and every 4-year cycle there. So the obvious one is Sam Constas. Does he come into that side straight away? You've got Josh Inglis sitting on the bench, who proved himself in Sri Lanka. The problem being they've got a lot of batters such as Inglis who could fit into that middle order there, as well as Cameron Green, but not necessarily players who are jumping out of their skin to fill those opening positions. So they've got a lot of questions to ask themselves and see if they can come up with a combination in that top 3 that starts clicking ahead of what is a crucial test series against the West Indies first and foremost. They're first in the new cycle, and then obviously blockbuster 5-test home Ashes later in the summer.
Now, the question that everybody will be wondering, Jack, given this match finished right on the cusp of lunch, did you get the famous Lord's lunch today, or did you miss out?
I missed out, sadly, Josh. I haven't eaten too much yet. I had a little bit of chicken curry over in the press conference room, but we had a marathon session over there. We spoke to Mitchell Stark exclusively for cricket.com.au, so make sure you catch up on that. In the morning, we also had Pat Cummins. We spoke to him, and then Aiden Markram, Temba Bavuma, and finally, we spoke to Andrew McDonald as well. So make sure you keep across all of that. But it was a marathon session, and had a little bite of some chicken curry over there, but haven't been able to sink my teeth into the press box lunch. And fortunately, I think they've packed it up already. So might be straight to McDonald's for me.
Bad luck, mate. Bad luck. But we do appreciate all your insights and for joining us over the past 4 days from Lords. Good stuff, mate. And we look forward to doing the same again when you land in the Caribbean.
Looking forward to it, Josh. It's been a great World Test Championship final, and looking forward to more action when we get to the West Indies. For
all the news, scores, video highlights, and all the latest on the Australian team, check out cricket.com.au and the CA Live app. And don't forget to rate and subscribe the Unplayable Podcast if you've been enjoying these episodes. Until next time, thanks for listening.